So I want to talk about gizmos in this one, and I'm going to show you a practical example of how to use them by building a simple interactive tool like this, which is like a soft select tool, useful for procedural modeling. And yeah, we're going to be making a little gizmo section in our node tree here and making our own custom gizmo. But yeah, overall going over the simple logic and really how I use this sample nearest as sort of a hack for using this with gizmos. It's really useful. So yeah, I'm going to start out in a blank file, and I'll start out with a plane. We could use anything. I'm just going to replace it in GeoNodes. So I'll just head into Geometry Nodes workspace here, and I'm going to make a group on this and just delete out the input and replace it with a grid so I can control the number of points a bit easier. And now I'm going to turn on my wireframe overlay and set this to something like 32 and make it a bit bigger as well. So I want to make something where I can move the arrow around to select an individual point first off. And the way I'm going to do this is by using the sample nearest. And what this node basically allows you to do is take in geometry as an input and then output an index based on the distance, like to a position. So wherever you put in a position, it will output like the closest index to that point. So if I view this, right now it outputs just the normal stuff. But if I input a single vector into this sample position, then I can essentially control the index that I'm going to get out of this. So if you look on the spreadsheet on the left here, you can see the index number changing as I play with this sample position. And this is useful because we can drive the sample position interactively with a gizmo. So to do this, first of all, I'm going to make this a group input, and this is the way I like to work with stuff here. If you don't want the user to be able to input this manually though, you can also hide it in the modifier so that the gizmo will still show up, but the user can't input the value manually. So I'll do that, and then down in this bottom section here, I'm going to create a linear gizmo. And these gizmo nodes are kind of interesting in that they have this special type of socket that when you input information into it, it sort of does this double flow of data. So you'll see what I mean here. So I'm going to separate out this sample position into its XYZ, and I'll just plug the X into this linear gizmo for now. You can see once we click on once we do that with this node group selected, we have this arrow in the viewport, and this is pretty cool because we can now interact with this arrow and dynamically sort of input values into geometry nodes. So if I unhide that value from the modifier, you can see as I move this, I'm affecting the X position because I plugged in the X from this sample position. So the way to think about the data flow here is that this gizmo inputs data along one of these lines, combines it into this XYZ sort of works in reverse. So it sort of acts as a combine when you run it in reverse. Not all nodes can be reversed like this, but most of them can for gizmo type stuff. And then that gets combined into this sample position, which we're sort of storing on the modifier level, and then we read it back in at another point in the tree. But you could just as easily use a vector node here instead and do it like this. It's the exact same thing. And now you see that we have this special little icon here to indicate that this is a gizmo value. It's been driven by a gizmo. And this little button that you can click basically toggles the gizmo to always show, because otherwise you have to have this node selected for the gizmo to show. So that's the basics of it, but I like to use the group input because that means I can have this whole other section of my node tree, which is just a more convenient way to input values, and then my regular node tree stays the same. I just have these gizmo inputs rather than modifier inputs. So now let's customize this gizmo a bit. We want to obviously control this in 3 dimensions rather than just one. So, and this is the arrow for the X position. So I want to make its direction be 1 in the X rather than up. And I'm going to change its color to be X, which is the red arrow there. And then for its position, as I move the arrow around, I want it to follow its position because right now it has a value of around 4, but it's still showing it position 0. So to do that, I'm going to use the sample position as the position for this arrow. So now you can see as I move it around, it follows wherever I move it. And this is something common you'll have to do is where you input a value into, via a gizmo and then use that value to drive the position of the gizmo. So you're sort of doing like this circular type data flow, which is a little bit new to geometry nodes, but you get used to it the more that you sort of do it. So now I want to make my own custom transform node for like 3 arrows, one for X, one for Y, one for Z. And there is a gizmo called the transform gizmo, but you'll see that this gives us like rotation and scale as well, which we don't need for this. We just need a simple 3 arrows to move it. So that's why I'm going to construct my own. So I'm going to make this a Y color, and I'm going to make it in the Y direction, and then plug our Y value of our position into there. So now we're affecting both the X and the Y position of this, and this should of course be at the same position as well. So now we can move this around in the XY plane. And finally, I'll just do the Z position too in the exact same way. And you might want to go ahead and group this little node group because it's kind of useful as my own like custom gizmo. Just call it like a translate gizmo, I guess. And I like to set the color to be output, and I'll give it like a bit of a wider width as well. So when we add it next time, that's all set up for us. So now what do we do with this this information of this sample position? Well, back on our main node tree, I now just want to, well, first of all, I can start off by saying, let's just look and see what this is doing. So I'm going to say if this index is equal to the sampled index, we're going to just see a result for that. So you can see as I move this arrow around, we're selecting a single point of this mesh. And what I want to do is not just select a single point, but just create like a soft fall off from this point. And I'm going to use that with distance. So I'm going to say from every other point on this mesh, what is the distance to this selected point? So like arrows like this, you can imagine. So these will be smaller, these will be larger, so these will be displaced more or less. So to do that, I'm going to get rid of this compare, we don't need it, but I'm instead going to sample index. And I'm going to get the position at this sampled point. And make sure to plug in the same geometry stream into this as well. And I'm going to sample a vector, and it's going to be the position of this point that we're selecting. And then I'm going to do what I just said, basically take the position of all the points on this mesh with this position node, this position field, and subtract these two to get a vector that points from each of these towards that point, or vice versa. And then I'm going to use a set position, and I'm going to offset the plane based on its normal. And now I'm going to scale the normal by some amount to displace it. But this is currently a vector, we need it to be a float value. And I'm going to take the length of this vector. And this will give us the distance. We could also just set this to distance, but this, doing the subtract method can be useful if you want the vector, so I get into a habit of doing it, but distance is just fine here too. And now, as we move this around, we get this interesting effect that sort of looks like we're putting like a weight on a piece of fabric or something. It's kind of cool. But this isn't quite what we're going for with this soft select tool. So let's use a map range. And we can now use this map range to control the values and invert this and do all sorts of things. So first off, I'm going to set the from max to 0 and the from min to 1 to invert this. And now this 2 max controls the height of the effect that we're generating here. And you also notice that if I go into front view, that this is a perfectly linear slope right now. There's a couple ways you could change this. First one would be to use a math node before this map range and say power this. So we could square it to get this sort of parabola fall off. Or we could get like an even sharper fall off if we set it to less than 1. And all sorts of crazy things start happening when you go negative. But this could be an interesting control for you to have to sort of control the roundness of it. But personally, I enjoy just setting this map range to smooth the step. And this gives you like a nice, sort of like a B-spline curve, which I find works pretty well. And now we can control the fall off with this from min and the height, the from max. But I want to drive these two things with gizmos as well. So first off, let's set our group in output to be correct. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with this sample position. I'm just going to make group inputs for the things I want to drive with gizmos. So let's do that. Group input for that, and one for that. That's index. And now down here, I'm going to set up some more gizmos to input stuff to these values. So let's grab a couple more. And for the from min, I'm just going to make a linear gizmo. And I'm going to make it a box, which is like a scale type gizmo. And I want it to point in the X direction, or maybe the negative x direction so we don't conflict with the arrows. And let's put it at the sample position, but I want to offset it based on whatever value this gizmo is going to have. So let's set that to the from min, and then on the this position I'm going to add with a vector math node, I'm going to add the value of this gizmo. So let's combine xyz on this and add it to its x direction. Maybe we need to multiply this by -1 because we want it to be on the negative side as well. So now as I move this, you see the arrow lines up with the sort of edge of the fall off of this circular select, which is pretty nice. And now I just want to make one more gizmo to control the height of this. So let's duplicate this linear gizmo, and instead this time I'm going to use a cross, which is a different shape that we have, and the direction is going to be Z up, like so, and I'll maybe change the color to secondary. And now for the height and position, I want to do a similar thing again. So I essentially want to use this sample position added with some value, and that value is going to be the value of this gizmo, which is going to be this 2max value. So again, we're inputting the height that we want to set it to in this 2max, and then we're using that height to offset the position. So now as I move all this stuff around, all the gizmos follow it, and it works pretty well. You do have to be quite precise with the maths on these gizmos though, because if you get it a little bit wrong, then the positions and the amount you drag them by won't line up. So for example, let's say I wanted to put this this arrow in the corner, going like that, rather than on the side here. Well, I could do that quite easily. I could just change the direction to be, say minus. Well, I'll just set it to 1, 1 actually, so it goes like that. And you would think I would just be able to plug the x and y into this, but as I drag this, you can see it sort of snaps as I let it go, which means that the math isn't quite lining up on this gizmo. And that's because we need to do a little bit of trigonometry to actually get this in the right place. Because now what we've essentially created is a right angle triangle for where this gizmo should be. So in order to get it to line up, the values that we have to add to this position are no longer just the x and the y components. We have to multiply them by something, because now we've put it in on like the corner of this triangle. Basically, we need to divide these lengths by some value based on this angle, which is always going to be 45. And this ends up being the square root of 2 for both of these sides. So both of these side lengths have to be divided by the square root of 2 to get the proper offset for this gizmo. Which you can do in here just by adding in a square root node. And instead of multiplying these things, I'm going to divide by this root 2 value. And now it lines up perfectly, and the arrow no longer snaps when I let it go, which is how you know you've got it correct. For example, if you use a gizmo on a curve, you might want to be able to control where to place the gizmo on the curve. And if I just connect this up to the output here, and I'm just going to hide these gizmos for now, so I don't see them anymore. And let's say this wasn't actually just a curve line, but instead a Bezier segment here. You might want a gizmo to control, say, the radius or something at some point along the curve. So what you could do in that case is use a sample curve node to control where to place the gizmo, because this will essentially take a position from the curve at a point. So if I create like a dial gizmo, which is just another way to input values, just rather like an angle value or some sort of circular thing, I could position this based on this curve factor. So if I want it always in the middle of the curve, I'll just set this to 0.5, and that's a nice convenient way of doing that. I could also say align it with the tangent so that it always lines up with the direction of flow on the curve. And this is really useful actually for inputting parameters like the curve radius. So let's actually just go ahead and do that because it's super easy and quick. So let's set curve radius, and then I'll just do a curve to mesh operation with a curve circle. And if I plug this into the radius value here, we should be able to control the radius of the curve like this. And that's kind of useful. You could, of course, also add, say, 3 of these points and then control the radius at the start, end, and middle very interactively. So that's another way that you can use gizmos in this way. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about gizmos. And these are some like useful ways I've been using them so far. But yeah, I hope that helps, and Yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.